All right, so once you've figured out where you want to go and what you want to see and how deep you want to go, the next factor to figure out are your time constraints. So your time underwater is going to be constrained by typically the most limiting of one of these four, either gas supply, your decompression obligation or your no decompression limit as a recreational diver, your cold tolerance, or the time of day. So let's first look at gas supply. So if you have been diving for any amount of time, you have most assuredly heard, be back on the boat with 500 psi. We're all told this, but how do you actually do that? Well, the simplest example I could give would be calculating the turn pressure or the pressure on your SPG at which you need to turn around on a out and back dive. So you're going out in one direction and heading back in the same direction. So for a standard aluminum 80 cylinder, which is the most common kind in the world, the starting pressure in that cylinder, if it's completely full, is 3000 psi or 210 bar. So if we want to end our dive with 500 psi or 35 bar, then we have this range here, right? We've got 300 minus 500 is 2,500 psi, or 210 minus 35 is 175 bar that is available and usable for us during the dive. So if we've got 2,500 psi or 175 bar, then the most simple solution would be to use half of that gas going out and the other half of that gas coming back, right? So we could use, so if we've got 2,500 psi to work with divided by 2, then we could use 1,250 psi or 87.5 bar on our way out, and then you'd have the same amount of gas to come back, because if you're coming back the same way you went out and there's not a strong current or other variables, then you should use approximately the same amount of gas both ways. So the question is then, when do you turn around? So if I'm on my way out, I started at 3,000 and I can use half of my available gas. Well, then I need to turn around when I reach 3,000 minus the 1,250 that I can use going out. So that's going to be 1,750 psi or 123 bar. So when I hit that 1,750 or 123, that is when I know it's time for me to turn around. So if you're mathematically inclined or you like the equation form, this is essentially that. Your turn pressure is your start pressure minus the usable gas divided by 2. So this is the most simplistic, but you should be aware that there are some common variations on this. So often if you're doing an out and back kind of dive, you might come back faster because you're swimming past things you've already seen before, so you're not taking your time as much. In that case, you'd get back and you would have some extra time to explore nearby the exit point. You know, maybe if you headed due north right away, you can come back and head out, check out the east and west areas, but kind of hanging around the exit point. Another important thing to keep in mind is if your dive is deeper than about 50 feet or so, or about 12, 15 meters, then 500 psi or 35 bar may not be enough gas to get to the surface safely. We'll talk more about that in the next video. And so in that case, 500 psi may not be your minimum. It may need to be higher than that. And then lastly, if you're not taking an out and back approach, let's say you aren't planning on heading due north, turning around and due south, you're just kind of putzing around in different areas. That's going to require you to be much more mindful of your position and how far away you are. And so that's going to require you to be more mindful of estimating how much gas you have left and how far away you are, which is more challenging, but becomes easier as you gain experience.